Hi, we're Chris and Ashley, and we are a marriage surviving sexual addiction and infidelity. And I just wanted to share that unfortunately we've missed some comments. I only look at our YouTube channel on my phone, and apparently there's like a group dashboard or something like that. I don't even know, but I got this alert from my email of going through a recap of some things about our channel, and I started to just scroll through it and read it, which I hardly ever do. And then I started to see that there was a bunch of comments that we had missed because comments came from different parts. And so I just wanted to announce that if we ever miss any comments, we're so sorry. We're not avoiding. If we see the comment, we will definitely do our best to either answer it there or to do a video on it, whatever we can do. So just please be patient with us, because I know that a lot of the times, if you're vulnerable enough to reach out and ask the question on our channel, you are really hoping to get that answer. And we want to make sure that as fast as we can share our thoughts on the matter. So I just wanted to share that, because this particular question that I'm about to read from a commenter is a very great few questions that I think a lot of people are asking themselves. And this is going to be one of those, we're always vulnerable, but this is going to be one of those maybe extra vulnerable videos. I'm actually looking forward to hearing Chris's perspective on some of these, and we've talked about it plenty of times, but it's just kind of nice to hear, because he's mainly going to take over this one, because they're all basically directed towards him. So I'm gonna listen with you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of read over what she had said, and again, just put it out there that this is what we do, this is how we handle it, and everybody's different, and we totally respect that. So she asked to kind of have an explanation of the addiction. Why, when you're married, do you seek sex outside of the marriage, especially if the spouse is doing everything they can to fulfill those needs? Did your addiction make you lose attraction to your wife? Did you really love her? And is having affairs just a way out of the marriage? So take it away, Chris.
Okay, so I'll try and kind of take these one at a time and probably refer down to the paper here so I don't miss anything. So the first was basically why seek sex outside of the marriage. Even if a spouse is willing to fulfill those things, excuse me. So I've heard that several times. Mm-hmm. I'll speak to myself mostly in just that there's really no set pattern to addiction. No two addicts are exactly the same, which is why I think sometimes people have no problem at all with alcohol, and others become heavy alcoholics that affects everything in their life. A lot of pornography addicts only ever look at pornography and never seek anything outside of the marriage. That was not the case for me, and that's not the case for lots of others, and it's probably different for every reason. But the main reason really is just it's an addiction, and that addiction changes your brain. The addiction changed my brain, and it's an addiction that I've struggled with since I was 5, and it gets to this point where it's never enough, and so it becomes continuously seeking after something more. Simply viewing it for me became not enough, to where I needed more. I needed to seek out, and that in and of itself was another addiction. Another form of addiction is trying to see what I can find, fueling my own insecurities and things like that, to where it's just what can I have, what can I find, where is it? And the truth is, it wouldn't matter at all what takes place between my spouse and I. It was simply an addiction that I was feeding and allowing to get worse and worse, and that led to seeking outside the marriage. And so that's what took place for me. I imagine it's similar for others that do the same things, but again, everybody's going to be different in that.
Well, and I can't I can't speak much to this, but I can say, like, if you're ever like addicted to something like sugar or whatever it may be, there is like a frenzy in your brain that starts in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really hard to satisfy that. Because I've asked this very question to Chris, and I've heard lots of wives struggling in this area ask the same question, where it's like, it kind of seems like sometimes when I look back, during when he was really acting out on his addiction, during one of our best years, I thought, of intimacy, it seems like he was even worse.
Yeah.
And so some of these women that have come to me have said, like, I thought it was really good. I don't understand. Like, I feel like it's been some of the best. Why? And they say the same thing, like, I'm trying everything that he wants and needs. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And from ways that Chris has explained it and everything like that, it has just come back to, listen, it's just never enough.
Yeah.
Like, when I get a taste of it, it's just not enough. So I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit more.
And that's, again, I think where each addict is different. So for me, it was enough. There's never enough. There would never be this satisfaction point in that. And certainly because everything being sought after is not real. And so it's actually truly not satisfying. And so that's never enough. And so you could keep on pushing and seeking. And that's what it was for me. It's, I think, different levels of addict. And I was very much on that hyperactive end to where there's never enough. So there never would be.
And I try to make that clear with the women. And again, you can back me up, because again, I can't really speak for him on this matter, but I try to make that very clear because I went through those struggles and those thoughts. And so I want to protect anybody who's starting to be like, well, what more can I do? Or how much more exotic can I get? Or what other thing can I do? To the point where I just tell them, listen, no matter what you do, it is not going to be enough. So my question to you then is, like, so then they're starting to think, like, well, if it's never enough, then what do we do?
Well,
so help explain that part.
I mean, that's the problem is, that addiction is continue to be done in secret. Now I'm getting help, from the point I start getting help, from the point I start working through things, you can begin to start healing. You can begin to unravel the addiction. I begin to understand the addiction. Mm-hmm. I begin to fight the addiction and learn what are the things that are triggering me. How do I deal with it in different ways? Because without seeking help, you're just feeding it. And that's what I was doing, was feeding it.
And so then healthy intimacy is satisfying.
Yes.
Is what I'll speak that for me. I'm not even saying that from an addiction
I'll say
standpoint.
That absolutely for me.
But healthy intimacy is very satisfying to the point where it's not sitting there seeking out for the next thing, because it is a satisfying thing. Yep. But also healthy intimacy will also never be enough, in the sense of we want to continue that for the rest of our lives as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I and that's exactly it. That's what I want to keep working towards, because you experience something real that's actually satisfying, and you want that continuously. But that's a good thing to seek after and to fuel and put proper work into. Right. So that's a better place to focus attention, and that only comes through healing. Mm-hmm. So, okay, the next question was, did your addiction make you lose attraction to your wife? So I'll answer this in two parts. The short answer to that is no. I did not lose attraction to my wife. I have always been extremely attracted to my wife. And obviously this is speaking in a physical manner. Physically, I've always been very attracted to my wife. The longer answer to that, I guess, is addiction takes a person to a dark place. And I've mentioned over and over again that it affects the brain. It affects the way I think. It affects my rational thinking. And when I would get deep into addiction, I would have a distorted viewpoint on all kinds of things. And it would become whatever is satisfying me right now, whatever's quenching the addiction in the moment, became the most important, most beautiful, most amazing thing to me in that moment. Whether it's fake or not, that's where my focus was put at that time. And that's where, so things that aren't real became, the best and the most beautiful and everything else. And it's a distortion that takes place that alters how I really think when I'm healthy, when I'm thinking in a healthy way. So it's, and certainly there's a very kind of eye-opening experience for me in that, where I realize that that's a very vulnerable thing that I think if Ashley's willing to share is something I think that will bring some clarity to that.
Yeah, so we've shared this is one of those super personal things that has happened with us, and we do share this story sometimes with certain couples, because I do think that these questions are questions that especially us with women, if it's the husband who has the addiction, have struggled with so much, because some of the first questions that I asked were, is she prettier than me? What are your thoughts? And is she this above me? Is she that above me? Like those, and even like with pornography figures, like, do you find the pornography figures way more attractive than me? What is it that they do that I can't do for you? Those kinds of questions immediately start to pop up in my head. And I'm a very insecure person. And I remember I pushed Chris one night just over and over and over, like asking about the women, like, is she prettier? Is she this? Is she that? And I just kept asking, and he didn't want to answer, and he didn't really even want to talk about it. Most of the time, Chris didn't want to talk about any of this, but and some people ask for details and some people don't. I'm unfortunately, I asked for a lot of details. I say unfortunately because some things maybe should have been left unsaid, but I don't regret anything that I was told. And I've been able to learn a lot. But one particular night, I kept pushing and pushing and pushing until he finally had mentioned, I will say this, I think that this person's particular body part is prettier than yours. And that body part happened to be this woman's breasts. And this woman's breasts are fake. Now, having said that, this is not a video. By no means am I trying to say that I have anything against implants, and to each their own, and your body is your body to whatever you want to do. So I'm not trying to shame a single person that has gone out and gotten breast implants by any means. But this particular woman's breasts were fake. And so that was the comparison he made with me and her. And I, because I'm so insecure, I really thought I was going to go into a place of, feeling that shock, feeling sadness, feeling like, okay, I have to run out tomorrow and change my body so that he'll find me more attractive. But that's not the place that I went. And instead, what I did was I said, Chris, really? You really think that her breasts are more beautiful than mine? I said, mine have fed your children. And and again, nothing against bottle feeding or breastfeeding, but mine have fed your children. And I struggle with my milk supply, so I really basically pumped 24/7 to get my milk supply up and everything like that. I'm like, I have bent over backwards. I have bent earth and fire and everything to try and utilize these breasts to feed your children. These breasts are your breasts alone. And so I just kind of sat there and just kind of talked to him about all these things. And then I just started to realize from that point on, it really opened up my eyes to any kind of aspect about why I was asking those questions. If I thought that he thought that they were prettier than me and all these things. And those are real things, and those are real insecurities. But when he answered that, and when my mind went to that place of, really? How can you think that? It became something where it was like, why am I asking that? Why am I asking these questions about if she's prettier than me, if those pornographic images do this, this, and this for him, if they're more gorgeous than me? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to take what's truly beautiful, and people always say true beauty's on the inside, you know, and it really is. If you're going to take everything that I have done, the fact that I would do anything and everything to put you and my children first, and to do all of these things to better our marriage and our relationship, and you're not going to see that for the true beauty that it is, then I honestly just feel sorry for you, that is where your mind has led you to believe of what beauty looks like. I don't know.
Yeah, that was kind of a, I don't want to say a slap across the face as if she did that to me, but it was a slap across the face in the sense of like a wake up call to where I started to really kind of understand then here's how the addiction has distorted how I think about things. I thought about things simply in the terms of what brought me immediate pleasure, what was about me, because addiction caused me to be selfish, ignoring reality, ignoring truth, and everything else. And so it was an extremely eye-opening experience, and one of the best experiences to get me to start to understand how to unravel false thinking that I've developed over time, start to unravel some of the effects of the addiction, start to work through and heal in how I think about things, and how I cast judgments on things, and not be so selfish in things, and see things truly. So it was a great thing.
And this just goes to show just how much an addiction can rewire the brain,
Yes.
to make women become objects. Not true beauty. It's lust versus beauty and love, you know, like it's what that can make it look like.
Yeah, that's truly what it is. It's the selfish thing, and so it's people are objects. Yeah, everything's an object for me. So the next question was, did you really love her? The way I was living my life, the actions, affairs, all those things, those don't show love. And I'll be the first to admit that those don't show love at all. But like for me, so I had this addiction since I was 5. And in battling this since I was 5, I've had a lot of shame and a lot of internal conflict to where, I didn't love myself. I never had. I was angry with myself, hated myself, and that's what perpetuated a continuous cycle of addiction for forever. So because I didn't love myself, I didn't know how to love. And with that, I didn't know how to truly love Ashley. I didn't know how to truly give her everything she deserved and how to love her in a true way. Did I love her? Yes, to the best that I knew how, which is why, I tried to overcome the addiction so that, I could marry her, be worthy of her, be faithful to her. But obviously went about it wrong, and that addiction came back after time. But I loved her in the best way I knew how. But in battling that addiction my entire life and continuing through the marriage, I never really loved her the way love is supposed to be, which is certainly something I'm learning now. It's what I learn now as I fight this addiction, as I rewire my brain, as I learn to love myself through lots and lots of counseling. And now as I learn how to actually love myself, forgive myself, I can learn how to actually love. And I can love Ashley in the way that she's meant to be loved, in the way that I do love her. And we develop this love that is a true and proper love. I mean, she's always given that to me. So this is obviously from me towards her, but which is what I'm so grateful for, that I get to love her and I get to show her true love now. And that's going to grow and continue to grow every day as I heal, as I establish more and more recovery and sobriety, and learn to love in the way that we're meant to love. So
yeah, and it's such a nice difference because, you know, as an addict, he'd kept a lot of things inside, feelings and all these different things, and he was not emotionally connected with me at all. So to find that emotional connection, and it's a constant process, we're constantly working on emotional connecting and communication, but to find that and to start working on that, the love that has grown between us is substantial because of the effort that is put into truly emotionally connect, and to see him like when he's angry now. Before, he stuffed anytime he was angry or annoyed, or he wanted something that, you know, even if it was something around the house or something, he would never voice it. He was just very much a stuffer and very passive aggressive in a lot of things. And now it's really great to see him be able to voice what he wants, what he needs. If I have said something, or if I have done something with our kids or anything at all, that he's like, hey, this is how I felt about that, or here are some of my thoughts on that matter. To see him open up that way and emotionally connect with me that way, it just helps us grow that much closer and that much more in love, to be able to emotionally connect and communicate in a loving and healthy way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the final question that was asked is an affair just the way? Is having an affair just a way out of the marriage? Again, I won't speak for everyone because everyone's going to be different. For me, no. It was not a way out of the marriage. It was the continued frenzy, the continued addiction, the hyperactivity of the addiction to where there's never enough. And it was basically the way of having, or trying to satisfy the addiction. It's obviously never satisfied, but while still having my marriage. I never wanted out of the marriage, which is why. So even though knowing, what you're doing is wrong. I mean, it's not like the brain is that corrupted, but if my brain was corrupted enough to know, okay, even though what you're doing is wrong, here's the consequences. Here's what's going to happen. It's going to destroy your relationship, just how we are with each other, which could destroy the marriage and the family, work, loss of job, everything else that comes with it. You don't think about those things. I never thought about those things, but I did know that enough to know if Ashley finds out, she won't want to be married to me, and I did not want the marriage to end. The affairs were not the means out of the marriage. For me, and so that's what I can speak to. That it was not a way out of the marriage, not for me, probably not for a lot. For some, perhaps it is. I don't know. I won't speak to those, but that's not just the case that okay, somebody has an affair because they don't want to be married, but maybe for some, but not for me. So
yeah, and obviously I think like that would be really, really hard to ever pinpoint that. And I don't want to speak for anybody out there, but I would wager that it would never really be about that. Having an affair to get out of a marriage is never the underlying reasoning behind someone doing something like that, because there's something that goes far beneath the surface, and again, it would never have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter who you are, if your spouse chose to have an affair, that is them.
Yep.
And their issue. I once one of the women said it always takes two. Now, absolutely, it takes two to make a marriage work and everything like that, and neither person is going to be perfect. And where it took two was my husband and the woman he chose to have an affair with.
Who knew I was married.
That's where,
it's not
in
like
my opinion, it took two. But that is Chris's choice to make those decisions. And that had nothing to do with me. That does not mean that I don't have areas that I can work on and find ways to be a better wife and everything like that. Absolutely. But if he chose to have an affair, he chose to have an affair.
Yeah, and again, it's through that addiction. It's through trying to satisfy that. If it were simply I want to be free to do whatever, then that's okay. I'm going to get out of the marriage and then just go be free. So now it's just fueling addiction is all that is, and that's not on Ashley. It's not on the innocent victim. That's on the addict that is acting out in an improper way.
So I just want to close with this statement to every husband or wife out there that has been cheated on by their spouse. Okay, it can do some damage on you personally, and it can really, really play tricks on your mind and make you feel like you're not enough, and make you feel like you're not good looking enough, or up to par, or up to standards as to what your spouse needed, because that's why they stepped out and you're not fulfilling their needs. It plays a ton on your emotions. And what I have come to learn through this process is that where I'm going to find my most beautiful self is if I am doing the best that I personally can to be the best mom, the best wife, and the best child of God that I can be. That's where I'm going to be the most beautiful, and I'm going to put that effort in. And there's a quote that goes out that I see all the time that says, for the wrong person, you'll never be enough no matter what you do. But for the right person, you'll be enough even in your worst moments. And that's come to be what I want to live by, because it's, for me, if I'm doing the very best I can, and I do have to put a lot of work into that, and that's fine. But if I'm doing the very best I can, and you're not going to find me beautiful, then that's on you. And I'd rather just find ways to find my own self beautiful from within, than focusing on if other people think I'm up to their standards, because that comes from an unhealthy perspective of what expectation is beautiful and is this or is that, when in reality we should be looking from within ourselves to find out if we really are meeting the highest standard of our own selves of who we want to be that day. So that's just my outlook. I'm sorry, because these questions, they have hurt, and I have asked them, and I'm not saying that I don't ever go back to these questions, because I do still have days where I worry about if I am enough for my husband or for anybody else out there. But I've just learned a lot through this trial that that's not the question that I want to ask myself anymore. I want to just ask myself if I am enough for my own self, and if I am trying to do the best that I can, and if I am, then for the right people, I'll be meeting their standards. So, thank you.